Good afternoon. This is Crime Corner Investigates going live. We're going to talk about the case of Charlie Kirk, the murder of Charlie Kirk, the horrendous murder of Charlie Kirk. The man being charged is Tyler Robinson, and he's being charged with aggravated murder and possibly the death penalty. So I do follow a lot of court cases. I have been for the past few years. And so I'm going to be following this case, and there's a couple of things that raised some suspicions with me. So I decided to start going live with my suspicions and my research, because I'm constantly researching court cases, particularly murder trials. Charlie Kirk was shot on September the 10th, about 12:23 p.m. Mountain Time at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. I had suspicions right out of the gate with the media reports of there being a transgender partner, lover, involved with Tyler Robinson, and that was the possible motive. So that kind of raised suspicions with me right off the bat. And then another thing that raised suspicions to me, or that kind of upset me, was that media outlets or even on the internet, you could find him being murdered, Charlie Kirk, on the stage. Most media outlets do not report horrendous things like that. It's just unethical. So, and for those of you that don't know, I followed the Nancy Guthrie case, and I posted several videos on it. If you want to look under Go Live, you'll see some of those videos. Whatever raises my suspicions, I did research on and posted about. So I'm going to do the same thing with the murder trial of Charlie Kirk. The first thing that I did research on was who was the first person on social media to post that video. I do a lot of media timelines early on in cases to kind of figure out what happened. Like, is the media driving some of the stuff in these court cases that can change the public's opinion of what happened and ultimately change a verdict with jurors? So that was the first thing that I did research on. Now, on the Nancy Guthrie case, I could find out who posted this, that, and the other first news channels. But for this, who posted the first graphic clip of Charlie Kirk being murdered? I could not find. It was people on social media, and apparently people that were at the event when Charlie Kirk got shot. I couldn't find any links to that. Supposedly it's in the back data of like X or any of the other social media accounts. And then a couple of news stations later on, because of course you don't post them, but the public reports say traditional outlets were careful not to show the actual moments of the shooting. They used blurred or post-shot footage instead, while TMZ and the New York Post circulated explicit video versions earlier. How horrendous for the family. I can't even believe either one of them did that. But anyway, when this video's over, I'll post all my links to any news media that I have, that I talk about, or that I did research on. So apparently, I don't think it's strange that I couldn't search who the persons were that posted it in the beginning. I just wanted to know if they were linked to anything or suspicious, but there was nothing there. Key X accounts did amplify the video though. So maybe they were just monitored, and when a graphic video showed up, it gets flagged and taken down right away. So I don't think nothing suspicious about that. A New York Times linked account describes how the footage was rapidly picked up by news aggregation accounts on X that repost breaking news. I still just think that's horrendous. It's just really unethical for any. I guess social media accounts like X and other ones, they have a different type of ethics as far as what they can post, whereas like a reputable news channel wouldn't do that. The New York Times and TMZ, come on now. Maybe social media gatekeepers took it down at least, so that is not suspicious, in my opinion. But it's still unsettling, like I said, to show the horrendous murder of him, and the family knows that it's out there. That's just not okay. I want to know what you guys think about that. Let's see. There was a guy named Adam Bartholomew who was streaming the video during that time. So I'm wondering, and there's no news reports, if investigators used part of that video for their investigation. I couldn't find anything on it, but there was one journalist type observer who was on scene and recorded footage at the UVU event in the reporting that I had found. Doesn't have anything to do with anything, but he could have something to do with the investigation. My next question was, what was being talked about during Charlie Kirk's final moments? Like, what was the question that the student was asking? And I don't know if a lot of people know that or not, but I was curious about it. So according to multiple reports and the person's own account, his name is Kozak. So he's on multiple media accounts, and I'll link where I've got that information from. The final onstage dialogue went like this. Kozak asked Charlie, "Do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? And Kirk says 2. Kozak then said the number was 5 and followed up, "Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Kirk's last spoken words were counting or not counting gang violence. And then he was shot. Now, I don't know about you guys. Don't you think that it's strange that there's a question asked by a student to Charlie before he's shot about mass shootings in transgender Americans? That's suspicious to me. And by the way, this guy is not connected to the murder. He wasn't investigated or anything like that I know of. So you tell me it's just a coincidence? I don't think that's a coincidence. That's a red flag right there. That's probably one of my biggest red flags. There's a couple other ones, but this is my bombshell red flag. It doesn't tell us any facts, but it can tell us if, what might happen for people that think that the whole Tyler Robinson murdered Charlie Kirk thing was fabricated. And I can tell you, if they looked at the footage to see what was being said, they thought, "Oh, that's a good story." Let me know what you think. So later on, Kozak said his point was, because I wanted to know, well, what was your point of that? Because we didn't get to hear the point. He's repeatedly said his core argument was about nonviolence and the left's behavior, not just the raw statistic, in an Instagram video he posted the day after the shooting. So I wanted to know the statistics. And the statistics are roughly the last decade, the best supported numbers are transgender, non-binary mass shooters, 4 to 5 incidents total, which is 0.1%, depending on the definition. Gang-related mass shootings, hundreds of incidents over 10 years under broad definitions. Because I think that's what Charlie wanted to know, gang-related or not. Non-gang mass public shootings was 40 to 60 incidents. So that was this student's point. It's a very small number. I just find it odd that that was the question asked. Does anyone else find that odd? If anybody's seen my Nancy Guthrie videos, there's some disturbing things that I found odd that I couldn't find anywhere that anyone else thought was odd. So when you're watching my channel about these cases, I find a lot of things odd that I don't see on any channels. And that's the reason why I'm doing these videos, because it just drives me insane. Now, Hunter Kozak is the student's name. He shared his questions with organizers before being moved to the front, which is consistent with a basic security screening practice, not necessarily giving Kirk a preview. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's lots of people asking him questions. I don't think that was planned. What I do think is a possibility that when they invest, if the investigation is staged to set up Tyler Robinson, they use that because it sounded good. I don't know. We could speculate investigators looked at the footage, and if they were staging the arrest, they made it relate to the question. Let me know what you think. Okay. So Charlie Kirk is shot, and FBI agents arrive at the scene to secure this scene, according to later testimony. And UVU sends out an emergency alert. By 1 o'clock, President Donald Trump is posting it on Truth Social that he's been shot. There's a timeline of that. I didn't find anything suspicious about that. There were 2 men that were detained and let go. Now, we don't know a lot about the men that were detained, but shortly after the shooting, an older man seen in viral crowd video with his pants around his ankles was taken away by police amid shouts that he had confessed. Investigators later said he was not the shooter and he was released. Now, there was some drunk guy by Nancy Guthrie's house during her, after she was kidnapped or abducted, that was spouting stuff about a prosecutor being involved in something, drug deals. I'm not sure. But I had big issues with all the gloves that were found, and it was suspicious to me that a drunk person would be in public like that. Drunk people are in the public. But that's a great way to plant evidence, be places where you shouldn't be because you're drunk and you don't know what you're talking about or whatever. So that's kind of suspicious to me. However, Utah Valley University initially alerted students that the suspect was in custody. Referring to a man arrested and booked on suspicion of obstruction of justice, officials later clarified that he did not match the shooting suspect and was cleared as a valid person of interest. So, I don't know. I can't find much information on it. Zinn is the older man seen in crowd videos with his pants around his ankles. Witnesses heard him yell something akin to, "I shot him, now shoot me," leading the police to detain him as possible suspect. Oh, I did find something that he had child pornography or something like that. Maybe it was a plea to make me stop or something. I don't know. So maybe nothing suspicious about that. But he didn't have a gun in his hand. So why would you tell the crowd you're safe? I don't know. He was charged with obstruction of justice. Court records and reporting from outlets like The Guardian say he admitted he falsely claimed to have shot him. He ultimately pleaded no contest to obstruction of justice. He has a long, odd history of run-ins with authorities going back decades. Okay, so there's nothing probably suspicious about it. So Charlie Kirk, the day after he was, the day after he was murdered, let's go back. The first published reports linking Tyler Robinson to the killing was the next morning. So that's pretty quick. At 7 a.m., FBI and state officials hold a press conference saying a high-powered bolt-action rifle believed to be the murder weapon was found nearby and that they're tracking the shooter's movements via surveillance, but still cannot publicly name him. So they had surveillance video at the college, and they also had other people's videos. So we don't know who, people that were in the crowd or that guy that I mentioned earlier. So by 9:58, the FBI releases the person of interest and shows photos and short video clips of a man in sunglasses, a hat, a long sleeve black shirt with an American flag, bald eagle design, asking the public for help to identify him. Now that's pretty quick because so Charlie Kirk was murdered a little afternoon, and by the next morning, you know, they don't have a whole lot of time to stage something by this point. I'm just saying, for the people that think that Tyler Robinson is, you know, not the real shooter, or there were other people involved. That's not a whole lot of time. I don't know. As we move through the trial, we'll find out a lot more information. So his video is released. And I have, you know, at 9:58, and I think it was on a YouTube video, the FBI released it. At this point, national outlets, NPR News, New York Times, Fox News, publish timelines and explain the manhunt, but do not know the name of Tyler Robinson. So that evening at around 10 p.m., Utah authorities later state that Robinson's parents and family friend, after recognizing him in the released images, contacted him and then alerted law enforcement. Robinson then surrenders and is taken to custody. A lot of us already know that his father or his parents turned him in. by seeing that video is what I heard. I'll do some more diving into that because that's what I heard. I forgot to check into that. And if you look at the video, I mean, it's hard to distinguish. I mean, I don't know. If a father sees his kid on video from really far away for a capital murder case, would he really know that that's him? But apparently Robinson confessed. So, I'll dive deeper into that because that's something, okay, I'm going to put that in red because I want to dive into that because I forgot about that. That's something that would be interesting to find out more records on that. Initial local and national reports that night say the suspect is in custody, but often still do not publish his name, immediately describing him only as a 22-year-old. The earliest public use of any identifiers beyond the bare name is the evening when outlets first describe him as a 22-year-old Washington County St. George resident turned in after a family tip. So that's the next day after Charlie's murdered. That night, his name is identified. The official briefing where multiple identifier markers, name, age, resident, vehicle, clothing, forensic context are laid out together the morning of the 12th, not till the next morning. The very first published account that a web sleuther found Lance Twigg was his romantic partner was a social media account on X. Now, I got a red flag on this one. You can check it out for yourself. The name of that person is at Kane Co. A the Great. Now, this cat has 1 million subscribers. He published Lance Twigg's social media account at 2:15. He's the first person. He's the first web sleuther. So he's not a web sleuther that's just an armchair web sleuther that has a social media account of 1 million followers. That seems odd to me. Just saying. I'm just saying there's another red flag. So the first red flag is that the question the student was asking was about transgender mass shootings. And now, the morning that Tyler Robinson's name is released and identifying information of where he lived, because there's no way that this cat would have known who his roommate was without that. But they did publish the identifying information that morning. But this is 2:16. I don't know if it's Mountain Time or Central Time or whatever. But what he posts is like a screenshot of his name, his Facebook profile showing a numeric ID, his Instagram at Sir Lancelot, Thread Sir Lancelot, TikTok display, stream gaming profile link ID. That's in the same thread. He says the TikTok account matches a Reddit profile active in transgender forums discussing hormones and transitioning. He notes that December 2024, the Steam account changed its display name from Lance to Luna. So this is the first reports that we have. that Tyler Robinson's roommate is transgender. Additional replies point out that the Steam profile is friends with Tyler Robinson's gaming account. Now, I don't see. Apparently, Lance Twiggs knew the night before that his boyfriend was arrested. So he could have shut down his accounts, and this was all that was found. I just find it shady that the first person to sleuth these accounts is someone with 1 million followers and looks more like a right-wing account. Now, I'll post the links to my sources. Check it out for yourself. I think that's shady. I just think that's shady, but maybe not. You know, I mean, we can pick apart a lot of suspicious things. It doesn't mean that Tyler Robinson has been set up. He could be guilty. Has not been found guilty, and he's presumed innocent until that day, and that's how we're going to look at him. So we're just looking at suspicious things. Yeah, if anybody has any, I mean, I had said this before in the Kohlberger case, Brian Kohlberger, people were web sleuthing information of the college students that were murdered, their social media accounts. Everything was posted all over within a couple of days. People that are just nobodies like me were finding stuff and speculating and be on Reddit and stuff like that. No, the first known one is this 1 million follower account. I'm saying. Later, by 2026, there were court-related. Okay, this is suspicious to me. However, later, 2026, there are court-related documents and filings that explicitly describe Twigs as a transgender and as having transitioned to female, but these are still descriptions within legal and media summaries, not, for example, medical records or Lance's own sworn statement solely about transitions. So we don't really have any documentation in the court records besides that, court filings, but he has never publicly said it. It is unusual ethics procedural standpoint. Their guidance say investigative activity cannot be based solely on race, gender, or identity or other protected characteristics, and public communications are supposed to stick to what's necessary for public safety and the investigation. In Robinson's case, some of the public messaging, especially via Trump and media replaying private briefings, intertwine the suspect's alleged romantic relationship with a transgender person and online trans content with broader narratives about political violence, which is ethically sensitive because it risks stigmatizing transgender people. So ethically, all of these public postings from the FBI and or not the FBI, but from Trump and media, right-wing media, intertwining this transgender information sounds like somebody was trying to push a narrative. Could the narrative be a fact? Could be. But for people that think that Tyler Robinson was set up, it could be. He could have been set up. Another strange point is that if Tyler was upset with Charlie Kirk, the opposite has happened. He stigmatized transgender people more so by shooting Charlie Kirk. He doesn't seem mentally ill. That's another suspicious thing that I have. He seems stable. Friends have publicly talked about him, and none of them say anything about him being unstable or strange. So there's that. Yeah, as the student asking the questions just before the shooting, transgender is not associated with mass shootings, but it is now. Another thing that I found odd was, and I don't think anyone else finds this odd on the channels that I watch, there is no record of Lance Twigg having an attorney. I find that odd. Now, could he have an attorney and we just don't know about it? There's nothing scanning the internet with AI. There's no documents. There's no mention of him having an attorney. I find that odd. I wonder if anyone else does. Based on published court records and news reports from preliminary hearing, there is no evidence that Lance Twigg, also reported as Lance Twigg, has his own attorney listed in the case. How could that be? Your supposed lover murders somebody that supposedly doesn't like the transgender community. I don't know. I haven't done. I'm not going to dive deep into Charlie Kirk's beliefs. He's been murdered, and it's horrific. And so I'm not going there. But that's odd to me. If Twiggs had retained private counsel or been assigned counsel, it would appear in transcripts referring to Mr. Twiggs' attorney during evidentiary arguments. Now, some people find it strange that he wasn't called as a witness during the preliminary hearings. I don't find it strange. Kind of. But, he did a deposition in April. It's pretty inclusive. I guess the defense attorneys wanted him there so they could question him. I guess it is odd because the judge said he didn't have to be there. So they denied the defense request to be able to cross-witness him. I thought it was odd, too, that this kid was arrested almost a year ago. And we're just now having a preliminary hearing. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but I wonder if that's odd. That seems like a long time to decide whether this preliminary hearing decides to trial or not. That seems odd to me. That's a long time. What about speedy trial rights? Shouldn't that have happened right away? I don't know. If you have any comments about that or let me know. But yeah, he doesn't have an attorney that we know of. No reference. Let's see. So, a video of a deposition that the prosecuting attorney took with Lance Twigg was on court TV during the hearing, and I think it was Thursday last week. If you want to see the whole video of his interview where the prosecuting attorney asked him all these questions. Now, I was on a couple other YouTube channels watching it. And a lot of people thought the same thing I did. Boy, it looks like it's tied up in a neat little bow. you know, it's too perfect for the prosecution. So I wasn't the only one that thought that. Because at first, like, I'm listening to it and I'm like, wow, this kid Tyler Robinson's probably guilty. And then I thought, no, this looks too staged. But I mean, he is a witness for the prosecution. So I don't know. Want to know what you guys think? Post in the comments. In the portion of the interview reported by international and Australian outlets, Twiggs tells investigators, I personally never heard him mention Charlie Kirk specifically. Typically, if he spoke about politics, it was related to Trump or current legislation. And Twiggs also says that the only time that Tyler listened to politics was on his way to work with like a group of people in the same car. So that's not helpful to the prosecution. It doesn't sound like there's, a political reason, but he could have an emotional reason, because he's hearing it on the way to work. Maybe something Charlie Kirk said about a derogatory comment with transgender or people in the car that he's driving to work with. And here he is in a relationship with a transgender person. And so he emotionally just got upset and lost his cookies. Maybe. I don't know. They seldom engaged in discussions about political matters, including gender identity or LGBTQ rights, and that Robinson was more politically aware than Twiggs, who didn't closely follow politics. So, Twiggs has not been charged. He's been granted immunity for that deposition only. So let's say Twiggs is charged later on. They cannot use the information in that deposition in his trial if it goes to trial. That's all it means. It doesn't mean he can't be charged later on. So that's why it's strange that he doesn't have an attorney. Maybe he doesn't have money for an attorney. Until you're charged, you don't get legal counsel for free because you're poor. So that could be why, but I'd be taking it out on a credit card. I don't know. So, maybe that's why. So, there's reasons for some of these red flags. I don't know. There's one other thing that really I thought was strange is that Tyler tells him that there's a note under the keyboard, under the computer. Let's see what it says. I forget what it says, but I have it here listed somewhere. But and it's about him being guilty or something. And Lance Twiggs takes a picture of it. I found that strange. Later it's burned, but we don't know who burned it. Maybe he was going to burn it and he wanted it. Why would you have an electronic record of something that is tied to your lover's murdering somebody? I found that odd too. Before the shooting, according to search warrant affidavits, preliminary hearing exhibits, and reporting based on those documents, before the shooting, Robinson allegedly told Twiggs to look under my keyboard, where investigators later found a handwritten note. The note reportedly read in part, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it. That's what the note said. Yeah, I don't think I would have took a picture of it. Let me know what you think. I don't think I would have took a picture of it. I think I would have burned it right away. So maybe Lance did burn the note. Immediately after the shooting, Twiggs allegedly texted, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" Robinson allegedly replied, "I am. I'm sorry." When Twiggs asked why, Robinson allegedly wrote that he did it because he had enough of Kirk's hatred and that some hate can't be negotiated out. Maybe he just was emotionally that upset with him. I don't know how old he is, but he's a young man. To not think that through, I just don't know. Horrific. Horrific, because he's facing a death penalty at this point. And he killed him with a family, and he's entitled to his views. I do watch Mormon Stories podcast. I'm a never Mormon. There are a lot of Mormons on the channel that have left the church, and some of them the parents have children that are gay, and a lot of times that's why they're leaving the church. So it can be tumultuous to have a child that's gay, doesn't recognize that, and I'm not sure the details. I don't know what the church thinks about it, but they don't agree with it. Let's put it that way, in mild terms. So it can be really hard. So it could have just been driving him crazy, because apparently he's a gay man. Tyler Robinson, from what we're hearing, is a gay man. Is he, and nobody knew about it? Does anybody have any reports that his friends or family knew he was in this relationship and gay? I'll try to find information on it, but we haven't heard anything in the media. When Twiggs asked why Robinson allegedly wrote that he did it because he had enough, on how long he'd been planning it, Robinson allegedly said a bit over a week. So apparently Robinson did not go to that college. He went there for a few years beforehand. But, the people he drove to work with may have been listening to stuff, and, and it just kept him bottled up. Logistics and post-shooting concerns. Messages discussed worry about fingerprints on his grandfather's rifle, leaving the rifle in a bush after changing clothes. He left the rifle that he supposedly shot Charlie with in the bush. He didn't take it with him. Engraving messages on bullets, with Robinson's later joking about Mimi's notice bulge UWU if it hit the news. I don't know what that's referring to. Robinson allegedly told Twiggs to delete this exchange and instructed him not to speak to media or law enforcement. Now, there are people making comments. Did the etchings on the bullet make it harder for them to distinguish if the shot bullet found in Charlie, came from that rifle? And I researched it. It said no, it doesn't have anything to do with that. So we can dispel that myth unless anyone else has any information on it. A longer handwritten letter addressed to Luna included lines like, "I am likely dead or facing a lengthy prison sentence. I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I took it. I love you always, Tyler." Official timeline. Kurt is shot at 12:23. And at 8:02 p.m. is apparently when Robinson wants to surrender. At 9 p.m., Robinson arrives at the sheriff's office with his parents. He's taken into custody and later booked. Now, there are some people that claim the text messages or one specific text messages came after he turned himself in. And I'm going to, dispel that myth because it was an automated text message that came. So people might have missed that were commenting on that. It was supposedly Tyler made an automated message to show up later. So after he turned himself in. I find it strange that I thought I heard Twigs say something about he didn't come home the night before or something like that. They were dating. I don't know. It seems like a casual relationship, but they live together in separate rooms, he said. They're in separate rooms. I just don't know. Maybe it's more about Tyler Robinson being a gay man than about his transgender lover. I don't know. 6:25 p.m. September 11th, Robinson is read his Miranda rights at the Washington County Sheriff. 6:57, a Discord message from his account says, "Hey guys, it's me at UVU yesterday. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few minutes." 8:02, sheriff gets the call. 9 p.m. he arrives. Those timelines seem really strange. But anyway, automated message. People commenting said it was 6:23 or pointing to the Miranda timestamp to argue Robinson was already in contact with law enforcement and possibly in some form of custody before the publicly stated surrender window. Critics use this to suggest the official story is incomplete or misleading. But yeah, it's an automated message. So I'm not sure. If you have any more information on it, post it in the comments. Now, the defense did object to the recorded interview instead of a live testimony. They pushed back on publishing certain text messages and ideological content as prejudicial, but the key confession texts were still admitted for the preliminary hearing. Now, the text messages are pictures of the text messages. People find that strange because this kid is being charged with murder and you have a picture of his text messages that are in the preliminary hearing. Apparently it's too complicated. They had a year to get the Celebrate, that's what they call it, that says whose phone it is and experts in there. So I think that's a red flag. Let me know what you think. I think that's a red flag that other people are commenting and on other channels that them, and I think it's odd to me. And some people are even saying that the whole preliminary hearing is just like a for show hearing. And it does kind of appear that way. I don't know. Did we see preliminary hearings with the Lori Daybell case? I'm not sure. Okay, let's talk about the ballistics. ballistics gave prosecutors a very strong link on the casing side, but only an inconclusive result on the bullet fragment itself. So they cannot link it to that rifle. So that's the point for the defense. Now, when they go to trial, which they're probably going to go to trial, they're definitely going to have experts on both sides. Another thing that I found strange is a security guard officer at the campus right after the shooting seen a holster on the ground and didn't pick it up. A gun holster. That's a red flag to me. And he says that he didn't think nothing of it because the shooter had been detained. So this guy thought the shooter was detained. But we hear that people that were detained, he thought the shooter right away. Which most of the time the shooter caught right away. I mean, I will do some deep diving into research with mass shooters. What mass shooters haven't been caught right away? Think about that for a minute. Now, there wasn't a whole lot of security that day. So that could be why. But yeah, this guy thought that the shooter had been detained already. So he wasn't worried about anything, and he didn't pick up a gun holster because he knew it was a rifle that he heard, and it wasn't a gun. I don't care what you heard. It was after Charlie was shot, and you don't pick up a gun holster. That's a red flag to me. That's strange. He was helping clear people out and preserve the evidence. He saw an empty concealed holster on the grass towards the top, just right before the cement on the terrace lawn. When asked what type of weapon it was for, he said a pistol. What happened to it? I have no idea. He confirmed he did not take it into custody, did not tell anyone else to take it in, and just left it on the grass. That's just... Now, if he's part of the conspiracy, why even bring it up? Unless somebody knows he told somebody. It's just strange. What happened to that holster? I don't know. Let me know anything about that holster. He thought he had an individual in custody, but supposedly it was the drunk person that we're being told. Later coverage and defense commentary highlight the holster was never logged or bagged. No one has testified to who owned it or whether it's connected to Robinson. Defense attorney Kathy Nestor has pointed to this missing holster, along with the lack of recovered bullet casings at the tent area, as part of a pattern of incomplete or ambiguous scene handling that they say should give the judge pause. Yeah, the gun fragment could not be definitively matched, but it wasn't ruled out. So let me know what you think in the comments. I think if Tyler Robinson actually shot Charlie Kirk, he's going to plead guilty and ask for a reduced sentence, to avoid the death penalty. Another question I have is, does he have death penalty certified attorneys? Well, they haven't gone to trial yet. So I guess when we get to that point, when they go to trial, I will do research on it for my next video, because they're thinking they're going to charge him for the death penalty. He's got to have a death penalty attorney. And I think that if he did do it, he needs to beg for mercy to avoid the death penalty. If he didn't do it, maybe he's not going to plead guilty. But if they have enough evidence that you did it, whether you didn't or not, is what you base your decision on. Not whether you did it or not. If they have enough evidence that you did it, you need to plead guilty, like Brian Kohlberger did. So, what do you think? Was Tyler Robinson framed, or do you think for sure he was the shooter? Do you think other people were involved? Do you think that Tyler Robinson did it and they're trying to make a narrative, just throw that in there for good measure about the transgender? Because we don't know for a fact Lance Twiggs is transgender. He appeared as a regular man. All he said in that video was he was dating him. Just because media reports say something doesn't mean it's a fact. We're going to follow the trial with the facts. And that's why I like to cover the media coverage, to find out what was said and where did that come from. So the fact that he was transgender first originated from that says that had 1 million viewers. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens next. I'll dig up some more stuff. If I find something that just doesn't sit well with me, I'll definitely have a video on it. As far as the Nancy Guthrie case, that case, go back and watch some of my videos. It just gets weirder and weirder. I did post in one of my videos, I didn't think it was burglary because they didn't take anything. But after researching some of these mob-related gangs, they do kidnap people for money. And they're into money laundering. So it's very possible they didn't kidnap her they didn't go in there to a burglary to steal something. They went in there, so it is a kidnapping, but they went in there to take her to get money from the family, and she died. That's why they didn't have proof of life. Who knows? That case just gets weirder and weirder. It's not the fact that the case is weird, the fact that the media circus has made it weird. Now, the Tyler Robinson case, it's a little bit of a media circus with the transgender stuff, but not like the Nancy Guthrie case. It does appear to be kind of cut and dry. So I'm just saying, but anyway, go back and watch some of those videos. I've got a lot of red flags in those videos. Anyway, I'll catch you later. Have a great evening. Thanks.